What up, YouTube? It's your boy Banks. And we back in the building, you feel me? It's True Talks. Cause True Talks, alright? Let's get straight right into it. So you already know, last night and Friday night, the Raptors obviously, now they lost. They lost their, that's two games. I think, 8 straight that they lost. And obviously, in normal situation, I would be doing, obviously, like a breakdown for, the Raptors and all that type of stuff of what happened, especially, how Pascal missed the game winner and what happened in that situation with him curling and all that type of stuff. I would do a breakdown on that. Or, I would do a breakdown on them losing, the last game to the Cavaliers, right? They lost the last game to the Cavaliers, right? The Raptors are currently 11th in the standings. They could make a push to try and get the, at least the 10th seed. And get in the 10th seed, you'll be in the playing game and anything can happen in the playing tournament, right? So, but the main thing is the fact that they're losing these games. Obviously, COVID happened, and COVID is a big reason for the Raptors to be, going on this losing streak and losing these games. But then, even when they got their players back, and even in some games that there was COVID, they had situations to win, they didn't handle it right. Obviously, it's not your main team, so we get it. Those ones, I kind of don't really go in depth into it and kind of just look at it. People are thinking that the Raptors, oh my God, they shouldn't have been playing. They had more than 8 available players. So obviously COVID is not going to be an issue to suspend and postpone those games. They have 8 players available. You can't get away with that. Other teams have dealt with it. They've gone on losing streaks, but when their guys came back, they started winning, right? They might have struggled on 1-2 games, even like the Celtics, but they still was winning, right? You look at it, now that their guys have came back, these are not even versus great teams. Like, they're fortunate enough. Other teams have come back off COVID and have been facing elite teams. So, like, it's even harder for them to get in the groove because there's no, there's no slippage. There's no room for error, right? The Raptors actually had room for error in facing, obviously Hornets. The Hornets are, they're decent in the East, but it's not like on a top tier elite. It's not like, those type of teams, or even the bottom tier teams, the lower tier teams of the playoffs in the West are still top tier teams, like the Mavericks and stuff like that. You're not facing them. You're facing, obviously one game was versus the Celtics, or that was even earlier. But when they came back, I think they came back pretty sure the last, like, you versus Hornets around there. Hornets, Hornets, Bulls. They lost those games, right? They lost versus Bulls. Actually, no, they came back even versus Pistons. You have Pistons, Jazz, but the Bulls, the Pistons, Jazz, obviously, they could have still won that or tied that game, go to overtime, or even won that game. And that was even a great team. But even if you lost that one, we're not too mad at that. But then the Cavs, the Pistons, the Bulls, well, those are situations where you should be winning. You know what I'm saying? You should be winning. If you're a team that's saying you're a playoff, bottom tier playoff team, they lose those games, right? And obviously, I know, like I said, COVID, breathing is an issue. That's what Van Vliet is saying. We heard Tatum say that before, stuff like that. And, it's going to be difficult. But your guys are a better team, or supposed to be a better team. So I don't really, that should still be a win regardless. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to give an excuse for that one. And especially even like the Pistons and then the Cavaliers. Like, come on now. Like, even if you say the Bulls on the road, whatever. The Pistons and the Cavaliers, there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for that at all. So normally I would be doing a breakdown, and those are the negatives within the situation, an 8-game losing streak. But then there is a positive within the negative, and that's the fact that now, because Powell has been eating, right? Lowry is obviously a veteran, and he is a established, solidified player that he warrants and has trade value, right? He warrants some attention, warrants some interest. Powell now has got a resurgence, especially since the COVID issues, and obviously since he's been starting, he's been snapping. Look at just his production in terms of just in the season. You look with Powell, he's been averaging throughout the season, 49% from the field, 49.6, so 50% from the field, 44% from three, which is elite. That's 54, almost 45. That's elite shooting. You know what I'm saying? 87% from the free throw line while averaging 20 points. That's as in general. But that's not just the one that caught everybody's eye, because he's now got high trade value, right? In terms of his contract, his position, and his production, right? It's not just that. What made him even get higher trade value and be like, you know what, people are hella interested, obviously, is the fact that ever since he's been starting, he's been showing like his splits for starting. As a starter, he's averaging 53% from the field, 46% from the three-point line, 88% from free throw line. You know what I'm saying? 3 rebounds, 2 assists. That's whatever. It doesn't matter. 1.3 steals, which is good. And 23 points. He's averaging 23 points. Like, that's actually like, what, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker averaging 24, 25? Like, you're actually like, you're in, like, you know what I mean? Like Pascal as an all-star was averaging 23 last year. Tatum was averaging 24, 23 last year. Like, that's what he's doing as a starter. You know what I'm saying? So, like, with multiple guards he's playing with. So, like, that's something that's going to entice a lot of people. Post All-Star break, you already know what he's averaging. He's averaging 53% from the field, 46% from three. Bad free throw, not good. 74 from free throw. But he's averaging 26 points post All-Star break. So, all of these things is like, dog, he's actually eating. So, when you look at it from that perspective, that's definitely why, his trade value has increased. His stock has increased. All of that type of stuff. So when other teams now, especially this Thursday, is trade deadline, right? That's why normally I would be doing, obviously, a breakdown on those last 1-2 games that they had and they lost and whatever. But I'm not even going to focus on doing a breakdown there because obviously we know they're on an 8-game losing streak. But again, like I was saying, the positive is now there's a lot of hoopla, a lot of talk, a lot of interest with other teams, which this is not something that I expected, especially from Powell, right? This is not something I expected from Powell. I already knew Lowry was going to be around trade deadline. It's going to be, do we gamble on him and all that type of stuff. Not only that those are only 2 guys I already thought and knew that they would get interest. I already know VanVleet's contract. Given his contract, people are not going to be interested. Pascal has digressed in terms of what he did last year and this year. People are not interested in that. I already know. So that's why I was saying they're stuck with their team. But the Powell interest, the Lowry interest is more so, what's more so surprising is the situation has changed. Not the interest from other teams, because when I said they're stuck, it's about not what teams want, but it's about what Raptors want, right? For Raptors to make Raptors, remember, you got to understand, what is the context that's looming was coming into this year, we want to keep the same team intact, not spend too much on, unnecessary additions and multi-year contracts, because we have this free agency coming up where we want to go ahead and go for some big fish and be able to try and make, sell people to come to this team and then go from there, right? The whole thing was 2021 free agency. That's been the whole story, right? So everything they did was adjacent and correlating to this free agency, right? It kind of goes hand in hand. So now when you look at it from that perspective, that's been the context. But the thing that has changed has been the context. That's why there's interest. That's why there's, maybe we could trade. They're still saying we're not trading Lowry. You know what I mean? Because again, the Raptors are looking at it as, no, we can make a push. We haven't been healthy. Let's go. Keep it intact. But now I think that they're starting to bite and starting to shift their direction of what their team is wanting. And that's the more surprising thing. That's been the context has now changed what I'm seeing and what it looks like. The context has changed. And a part of it, and a big part of it, is been an 8-game losing streak. Your position and your standings with amongst the East has changed. You're 11th in the East. You know what I'm saying? You're 11th in the East. And you're not just 11th in the East. You're 17-25. I mean, you're what? Out of the 8th spot, you're only 3.5 games out the 8th spot, right? And you don't need to be in the 8th spot no more. You just need to be in the 10th because it's a play-in. You're only 2.5 games out the play-in, out the 10th spot. But, you know what I'm saying? It's like, are you really going to be able to eat and go to work like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it possible? Or do you take advantage of a situation that's now presented, that's new? And that's what I was saying. The context has changed. They're losing. They're at the 10th or 11th, right? And at the time that they're at the 11th, now you're at trade deadline. Your window is Thursday. You have a couple days. That's your window. So you have the trade deadline, which is your window, right? You're now looking and your life is flashing before your eyes. You have to make a decision. Do we really try? And now in the situation, the season is basically closing in, right? You have like a quarter left. It's closing in. Do you really just keep everything intact and go? And at best, what are you going to do? Maybe 8th seed at best. You get to the 8th seed at best, right? And be an 8th seed and be a first round exit. Do you really do that? And then now you're in the summer. Lowry maybe goes for nothing, right? And then, like, you know what I'm saying? Powell can be a free agent too, because he could go into his player option, right? He could be a free agent. He could decline his player option that he has and be a free agent, because his player option next year is 11.6 mil, right? So he could literally, because now he's got so much interest and his stock is high, he could be getting offers. He could just decline his player option and go into free agency, and you could lose him for nothing, and he can get a big contract somewhere else with more minutes, be a guaranteed starter, and all that type of stuff. It could even be a bad team. It don't matter. He needs to get his bread. He's already won a ring. He could get his bread and now go for that all-star, go for those individual accolades, right? The Raptors aren't going to want to give him a big contract in this kind of free agency. Or maybe they do that, and now you lose Powell, and you have to sign him and try and sign other people, and like you're in a different game. You could automatically just go into rebuild without actually getting something back for those assets that you had. You lose those assets and you're in a rebuild because all you have is now Pascal and Van Vliet. Obviously, OG's still there, but you have those three. And you're automatically going to be in a struggle rebuild type of situation, and you got nothing for those guys. Right now, your window is trade deadline. You're now losing. Do you now have foresight? Do you now redirect and read and react off this situation and take advantage of it, which is Powell's stock has rose to a level where it's like, okay, you could trade and maybe get a 1-2 picks, whatever the case is, because again, you got to understand, you trading these guys, you're not trading these guys for other stars. It's not like, one of those Karis LeVert situations. You're not trading and getting a Harden. You're not trading, you're not doing that. You're not doing that, right? So these guys you're going to be trading for is going to be, the other teams are going to look at it as a solid addition. They're not looking at it as my franchise pieces, right? So those guys are looking at these pieces as solid additions. Normally, when you trade for solid additions, you give back role players, right? You trade role players and picks. That's normally what it goes with, or just picks. So, this is not a situation where you're gonna be, we could trade these guys, flip them for elite guys. We're still here. We're still in the pack and in the thick of things. No, once you trade these guys, the whole purpose of you being in the thick of things is having these guys and getting a 1-2 solid addition in free agency to still be in the thick of things. But when you lose those guys, that's basically like you're losing your core. You're not going to lose your core and replace them with free agency stars. No, you're going to lose your core. It's going to be multi-role players or multi-year deals. You're going to lose, you're going to affect your finances or, your cap and all that type of stuff in terms of actually even attracting a free agent. You're not going to be able to get the top tier anyways, right? So now you're going to be in a guaranteed rebuild because you lose some of your core. You trim the fat. You're losing some of those guys who are actually the reasons why you're even in a position to be in a low or in the thick of things. You're losing those guys. That's two crucial guys. Now you add lower tier guys. You add in more Baines quality type of guys, and you're guaranteed rebuild. You might as well, if you're going to trade those guys, it's probably most likely you're going to be in a rebuild and just you're going to get picks. You're going to do the OKC route, not fully like OKC because you still have Pascal and Van Vliet, but the guys you're trading for are definitely, you're doing the OKC mindset. You're trading Lowry, you're trading Powell, and you're trading those guys for picks and a 1-2 crucial, low tier, not expensive role player. That's kind of what you're doing. So when you look at it from that perspective, like, you're automatically those New York back then before they're now, how they are now, or stuff like that. You're not like the Fugazi rebuild because again, you still have an all-star caliber player in Pascal, an all-star caliber player in Van Vliet, but the surroundings around you is definitely rebuild. So it's one of those things that now maybe eventually you have to trade Pascal and Van Vliet. Like, you're going down that direction. You're in one of those situations like, who is a team that's kind of like rebuild, but not really. That's kind of like mediocre. Let's go see. Let me check the standings real quick. Because it's one of those teams that like, you're going to be one of those teams, right? Yeah, you're going to be like a Charlotte situation. Like, you had Kemba, you're not really rebuild, but you're kind of, right? Or like Washington with Beal. You're not really rebuild, but you're kind of. You're going to be like that. That's what you're going to be like, right? So, do you really want to be that? You're kind of like, you could make the playoffs, but you're most likely not going to make the playoffs, but you're not bad enough to get number 1 picks. That's the situation that the Raptors might be, putting themselves in if they trade these pieces. But if you don't, you might be in that situation anyways and losing those assets. So this is one of those situations where, honestly, like, it's now the Raptors have to make a very crucial decision, right? You might have to just scrap that whole 2021 free agency type shit. And all of that is supposed to have been scrapped, you know what I'm saying? Like, because if the only way that 2021 free agency was going to be actually, something worse, like we're in play for these guys, is if, like I said, you're kind of like the Brooklyn Nets before KD and Kyrie. You actually like made first round 6th seed, 5th seed, and you were just you pushed it basically like what the Raptors did last year with the bubble. You kind of like, you pass the first round, you're in second round, but you fight to the end. And you kind of just, you're missing that piece. That's what your play was supposed to have been. And I was saying, even coming into the season, I said, you going for Aaron Baines and you not actually going paying a little bit more in, and for a solid center and stuff like that. That's gonna come back to bite you. And that's because the way you started the season is actually why you're in this position. It's not, because of the COVID, because you lost 8 straight. You losing 8 straight in COVID. Other people lost that and was still able to fight that because they lost that. They're like, it's not something where, okay, this is our actual team. You're obviously at a deficiency. You're losing guys, whatever. You lose for that segment, that kind of stretch. You lose games, and then now you get your guys back. You're still a winning team. You're gonna just go on a winning streak. You're back. That's the Heat went through that. Other teams have went through that. Even Celtics, other teams have went through that. Mavericks, other teams have went through that. But the thing is, they're not a Fugazi team. You're already a Fugazi team off the jump. When you had Aaron Baines, you had Alex Len, you were losing and like Fugazi off the jump with no COVID and nothing. So that's what put you in a bad position. So that now when you actually got COVID, you weren't able to get over the hump because you basically had a COVID without having a COVID in your first stretch. Right? So that's what is hindering them. That what literally killed them. That was the real reason, the real root of all of this. And that leads to how you played your free agency this year. Right? So that, again, like, that's why I've been trying to say that, it's unfortunate. A lot of things have changed. I think that, it's tough. I think the position that you're in, I think it might just be smart. That's what my verdict is coming down to, that it might just be smart to whether you trade one or you trade both. I think maybe you just trade both. Like, I mean, Lowry, obviously you want to keep him, whatever the case is, but if you keep Lowry, you're going to keep giving him bread. Like, what are you know what I mean? Like, just let bygones be bygones. Obviously, he's, people are saying he's the greatest Raptor of all time and stuff like that. But, like, if you can get, it all depends. Like, if you're going to trade him and there's only, like, 1 pick and whatever, like, it's fugaziness, I mean, do you really trade them? But if you're able to get, like, if they have enough value where you could get a 1-2 role player and a couple of picks, or even if you don't get any role player, you just get bare picks, like, I would do that. I would honestly do that and, and just go through the draft and just go through this rebuild. And eventually this rebuild was supposed to happen. You know what I'm saying? This rebuild was supposed to happen. But again, for something is telling me, I don't think the Raptors are going to even, I'm not going to be surprised if they trade them, but something is telling me they don't. Like I told y'all, DeRozan's about to be a free agent. And I know these guys have been planning to reunite. And at least if you have DeRozan, you're automatically in a mediocre, same situation again. Maybe you could get 5th seed, 4th seed. Like, you're going to be in that play. Re-sign Lowry. re-sign Powell, and all it is just finding a crucial big or like I think that's what they're most likely gonna. I don't think they want to go through a whole rebuild at this stature. Like, it's hard to go through a rebuild when you have 2 all-star caliber players. Like, it's hard. It's hard. You're never going to be your mindset as a GM is never going to be, yo, just full in rebuild. Normally when you go full in rebuild, you don't have, maybe you have a young, like, perfect example, like OKC, you have a young all-star caliber type of player like Shea, then yeah, who has never been an all-star and is like, he has to improve. Now the rebuild and him improving goes hand in hand, and it makes sense. But Pascal is supposed to be established. He already has been an all-star. He has a ring. You know what I'm saying? He's supposed to be established and supposed to improve his all-star, superstar tier. That's what he's supposed to do. Van Vliet is the one he's already established, and all he needs to do is break out into all-star. You know what I'm saying? But he's old enough. Like, it's not like he's a young guy rebuild. Like, it's not like one of those, right? These are guys who have a ring. So normally, that's what I'm saying. The GM focus is going to be more so like Washington. If you are rebuilding or you are getting picks, it's not intentional. It's just injuries or you're just losing. That's what I'm saying. It's more so like the GMs of Washington. They didn't look at it as, I'm trying to rebuild. You're just rebuilding because you're losing, because you have an injury wall and whatever. You have 2 all-star caliber players. You're naturally going to, everything is, we're trying to win. We're making role player pieces. We're making role player additions. You know, we Otto Porter, trade him and get this guy and whatever. You're not rebuilding. You know, it's not rebuild type of focus. You're always trying to put a roster around where you can compete because you have 2 all-star caliber players. So you have to surround them with competing or they might go. And that's kind of where the GM focus I see the Raptors doing. And that's why I'm saying it. That's why you see them automatically go, no, we're not trading Lowry. No, we're not doing, because their mindset is we keep everything intact and we try and just get it together and win. Free agency, we get new bigs. You know what I mean? We get DeRozan. We try and do something and then keep everything. We're always in a winning focus mindset. And that's where that sometimes might come back to bite you if you don't capitalize on these waves, these high interest, these values, these waves where, oh my God, his value's at his highest. Stuff like that. You don't capitalize on it. But again, what it all fails down to is what you have on your roster. What you have on your roster is you have OG, and not even OG mainly. You have Pascal and Van Vliet. Like I said, even if Powell and Powell and Van Vliet, I'm sussing. Powell and Lowry was to go, you still have Pascal and Van Vliet. Now that those guys go, those are going to be 2 all-star caliber production guys, always. Even if Pascal's struggling, he's still going to be averaging 20 plus, like, you know what I mean? Like, more usage, more all of that. So it's like, do you really surround them with fugaziness and just in a rebuild? Like, that's not something that I never see GMs ever, you don't see GMs ever focus on that when they have that kind of player. Even with Harden, like, you always try to your ends to get a solid team around them. Good enough to at least be mediocre, at least get a playoff run, at least try and make an upset. You're always going to be in that. Same thing with the Pacers. When you have Oladipo, when you have Paul George, when you have, like, you're always going to try and surround with solid talent. You're always going to do that. And if you rebuild and if you lose, that's because the team just didn't perform. But you're going to always try to the death to always surround these guys because you believe in them. So that's the one thing that I don't know. It's like how I don't see Masai. I don't see these guys looking at their team as we rebuild. They're going to look at it as COVID hit us. We're going to look at it as, they're going to look at these excuses for why they're losing. They're not going to look at it as we're just ass and we need to just rebuild. Yo, we done now. I don't think they're ever going to look at it like that when you have those type of players on your team or as your core. So, we'll see how this kind of goes. Let me know if you think they should trade them or if you think, they should trade one of them or trade both or just keep them and, like, do what, go for the free agency, play it out and see how it goes. Maybe re-sign Lowry, re-sign DeRozan and go from there and run it back that way with the older version of the Raptors, more mature and more, solidified and more gone through things, won a ring, and now you run it back with the old guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's also will sell tickets. Oh, DeRozan and Lowry are back together, running it back. You know what I'm saying? Powell is more improved. Everyone is more a better version of themselves. Now you run it and let's see where it goes, right? You have Pascal, like stuff like that. Like that's where I know these GM. I know Masa. I know they envision that. Because again, you have to sell seats. You have to do that's what I think they envision. You know what I'm saying? That's what I think they envision. And that's the play I think they're going to go for. I've always believed that. Now, whether they do that or whether they don't, maybe they change direction because Powell now has higher interest than they ever thought he would. Lowry's having interest, stuff like that. Lowry's always had interest. So I don't think that's what's going to make them do the decision. Like they're always, like they said, oh, we're keeping Lowry. We're not trading him. I don't think Lowry's interest has always been there because remember, he's a contract year type of player. He's already a veteran. Like, it's always an interest for another team to get that type of guy. And if it works, he's off the books for them, right? That's always a trade asset. But the Powell is the more surprising one. So maybe they change directions. If the Powell is the surprising one and the losing, right? So maybe they change directions. Like I said, I don't think they will. Just to be honest, I would be surprised if they just deal both, or if they do, I would be surprised. But it's just me. This is one of those situations. It's not really like, oh, IQ says this and that. It's not really one of those. It's kind of like there's IQ in each way, right? It's kind of like just what your opinion basically is. This one is not, nothing is facts. Nothing is, they should do it. Like they have multiple plays, multiple options they can go with. I just think I'm just applying business into it. I'm just applying business, and the fact that you have Pascal and Van Vliet, at this caliber, in more so entering their primes and stuff like that, I don't think you're ever going to want to surround them with a losing team, or they might request a trade. Like you see, or Aaron Gordon, I'm out now, request a trade. Like, I don't think you and money-wise, now you had a pandemic. Now when you come back, you want to sell fans. You want to, you want to be able to sell and get tickets and stuff like that. Like, all of this matters, right? Jersey sales, all of that. So, like, when you look at it, you want to surround your team. You want to ring just 2 years ago? Like, I don't think you just want to just dive into rebuild unless you lose these players, then you dive into rebuild, right? How are you going to go into rebuild while you have guys entering their prime? It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up in terms of just, roster wise, core wise. So, and you're not going to be able to trade Pascal and Van Vliet. If you're trading those guys and you're going to rebuild, yeah, but if you're keeping those two and you're trading the other guys, right? Is like I've been saying, like, I don't think that that's something that just correlates. So I think that the bigger picture for them, business-wise, DeRozan, they probably, DeRozan opt into his play. Is there's a reason why DeRozan could have been a free agent. He doesn't want to be in the Spurs. Obviously, he doesn't want to be in San Antonio. It's clear, right? He's already cheesed that he's not an all-star. Now you're playing in an under-the-radar team. That's why you're not, he doesn't want to be there. The East is ideal for him. He gets his all-star burst, all that type of stuff. He never wanted to leave Toronto, right? And now he is someone who's unhappy. Normally, you go, especially when you had a good year. I decline my player option. I'm going into free agency. But no, it makes sense. Go into your player option. The Raptors' best free agent year, class, and more money that they have, decent money at least to sign you, is the 2021. I align with that. Let's go. It makes sense. I already know. I know that these guys are going to go for I know it. I know it, man. I know it. I already know. Come on now. I know it. So I don't see them trading. I'm just me using my own type of IQ and, seeing business and stuff like that. It just, to me, it's not like it doesn't make sense, but I just don't see it. Now they could do it. Things change and whatever, but let me know what y'all think in the comments. You know what I mean? You already know. Appreciate y'all. It's True Talks, because True Talks, they play today, so we'll see how they move. But remember, trade deadline is Thursday, so a lot of this, you're going to see a lot of news, and you already know how trade deadline goes. Each and every day, stuff leading up to it, you're going to be seeing a lot of, it's going to be each and every day new news, new this, new that, more interest, new this and whatever. And you're already seeing, just today, already a lot of stuff going on with the news and whatever. Also, rest in peace to Elgin Baylor. My goodness. But he lived a great, long life, 86. That's a long, long life, right? So, rest in peace to him. Obviously, one of the greatest players to play the game. And, again, like I was saying, you're seeing a lot of news today. A lot of Victor Oladipo this, and a lot of, Vukovic, I think, as well, too. A lot of, all these guys coming on the board. Aaron Gordon requesting trade. A lot of things are, it's trade deadline. This is what happens. So we'll pay attention to that. Follow my Twitter, follow my IG. I'll be talking about things and stuff like that as I do. You already know. Like I said, I appreciate y'all. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. You already know. Just share, like, and subscribe. I'm seeing a lot of a new some of you guys who are new, but y'all are still basically day ones. I'm not fully blown up yet. So help me get blown up. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate y'all. Spread the word. And, again, comment in the comment section what y'all think. I appreciate y'all, man. You already know. And I'm out, man.